68 degrees, right? Okay. And so let's just spin around here and let's see a little bit of what we're seeing on the outside walls. So there's not a lot of difference there. So what I'm looking at here are studs, appears to be about 16 inches on center. The studs are a darker color. So on the right-hand side here we have a temperature scale. Lighter colors are warmer, and it's auto-ranging, which means the numbers that the colors represent change continuously. So you can see the studs. I'm pointing with a laser pointer, and the laser pointer is about aligned with the center of the crosshairs here. The approximate uncalibrated temperature at the center of the crosshairs is up on the left there. So you can see the studs. In fact, it looks like we can even see some fasteners of some sort there. And as we go across, we notice over here we see this rather strange pattern above the window. And looking at that, I would interpret that to be maybe lath and plaster with perhaps no insulation behind them.
Right, I think it would make sense that, I mean,
might have been
depending on when they were blowing the cellulose in, did they do some of the smaller areas like above and below the windows?
Did they take the trouble to do it?
Or did they just do the larger opening?
So let's just speak to this. So we know the wood, right, is fairly thermally conductive. We know we're in the warm side of the wall. And what we're seeing is a stud that is a darker color. So I would interpret this as meaning that we have a heat loss to the outside, the stud area is slightly cooler, and that we have insulated cavities because the cavities are somewhat warmer
than the studs.
So if we go up to the window, we can see here the situation appears to be reversed. We have the studs, right, being a lighter color, and we have the cavities being a darker color. So I would interpret that as being possibly there's no poor insulation in there. The horizontal lines, to me, evoke the idea of lath and plaster. So I'm thinking maybe lath and plaster that was not filled. So it looks to me like those cavities probably weren't filled.
What's the very high contrast line that was running along the top of the wall ceiling intersection?
So there's a couple things going on there. First of all, the skin effect in a corner, maybe 8 inches out or so, has a slightly higher R value because the air layer is a little less mobile. But probably the bigger thing is just thermal bridging, because you have, think of how the structure is there. You've got wood all the way out. In maybe a corner, a 3-stud corner is a better example, but when you have walls come together, generally it's solid wood. So that tends to conduct heat better. So that will reduce the temperature more.
Gotcha.
Now here...
Is there anything you can do about that, or that's just, hey, you have wood,
we have wood framing
back there?
Yeah. And so that's why we start talking about rigid foam board, because when you break those thermally conductive paths, less heat goes out the studs. So up in the corner here, we're seeing something that's, in the range of 80 degrees. I'm guessing there's some sort of pipe in that wall. See right up here?
Yeah, I think that goes to the radiator in our bedroom.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, they put the radiator pipes in the outside walls, which is nice because the radiators are always on the outside walls. And why are the radiators on the outside walls? Well, you have a convective loop where warm air hits the wall, gets cooled, goes down, and creates a convection loop. If you didn't heat the outside, those walls would get really cold. That's why we put radiators on the outside, to oppose the convective loop.
Yeah, there's a combination. Some of the heating pipes are visible, and in the interior space, and others are in the walls.
Okay.
We think that used to be a gravity hot air system was the original.
Oh, was it in the
system, and then it was converted. I don't know, whatever, in the 20s or 30s or something to the steam.
You guys see the fasteners in there too, huh?
Oh, you can see. I know a guy that uses these. He says he can see termites. They're warm enough. Yeah, he can see termites. So this is pretty interesting over here now. Yeah, we're seeing all sorts of things. So you can see what appears to be insulation or something, and then we are seeing cavities, right? We're seeing framing, we're seeing cavities, and then that seems to be pretty much patchwork. I would interpret this as being little or no insulation or poorly installed insulation, right? Because we see light-colored studs, and we see the darker colored cavities, and again, it's maybe evoking that idea of the lath and plaster, a little bit of horizontal lines. Now, let me just look and see what we have here.